It is 586, week number 6. The big theme this week is about grant writing. That's your discussion board. That is your project. It's a group project, so you'll be in a group of 2 or 3. This can be a submission only pretend grant, or you can actually submit this. I found that submitting grants, particularly mini grants, is much easier than I initially would have thought. Most schools don't have much, if any, discretionary budget or kind of teacher decided budgets. This is a chance for you to practice a skill that can actually come in really, really handy. My last 3 years in the classroom, I was applying for at least one mini grant, usually through a credit union, every year, and was getting on average about $500 in hardware for my classroom. So that's when the Apple TV first came out. That's how I was able to actually buy an Apple TV, HDMI cables, and a TV for my classroom. And I was able to AirPlay from my phone right when that was like a brand new thing. And it wasn't like, oh, we're putting an HD TV and an Apple TV in every classroom. That was not what my district was doing. It was like, here is a 10-year-old projector that barely works when the lights are out. And so it was a chance to, even though it was a smaller TV at the time, be able to get a TV and then use the Apple TV to be able to AirPlay from my iPad or my phone, or be able to use it as kind of a mobile document camera. And so I did it through Foothill Federal Credit Union most of the time. They have branches kind of throughout San Gabriel Valley. I don't know that you have to be in that area, but you can certainly apply for it. Just look at your local credit union. And it was a one-page thing. Here's what I want to do. Here's what it's going to look like, knowing that the audience is typically going to be credit union bank managers and not educators. So explaining very high level, very simply, how this idea is innovative, how this idea will help center the student experience. And I think it was a 100% success rate when I would put in for a grant proposal. And most of them were 1 to 2 pages, pretty simple, pretty high level, a little bit of detail so people can kind of get understanding what it is. But really, it was like, here's the big picture, here's kind of philosophically what this lets me do, and then here's how students will actually engage with it. So I know a lot of people have used this successfully for like various like sports equipment for PE, particularly in elementary school when there's just like rarely a budget for PE equipment. If you want to do like a fun or special game, it could be a good chance for that. So even if you're working with 1 or 2 classmates on this, you can take that idea, kind of make it your own, and then submit your own. And depending on the time of year, that it tends to be right around now, around springtime, when it's like, get your grant for the end of the year, or like looking ahead for the fall. Stuff is open in kind of summary stuff for the fall coming up. There's a lot of links on the Week 6 page. You can also just pretty easily Google, mini grant is what I would encourage you to do. I'm not recommending that you do like a $400,000 grant for something. Those tend to be massive projects. Those tend to be the things that a district will hire an employee full time. All your job is to get grants, and they essentially pay for themselves, right? If you're making $100,000 a year and you get a $200,000 grant for the district, great. So we're not talking at that level. We're not looking for $1 million grant. We're looking for like $200 to $500. There's surprisingly lots of opportunities around that. So that's your discussion board. That's your assignment. Look in the announcement for your group assignments. And then the other part you have of this week is just looking at various readings. It tends to be around digital literacy and kind of digital citizenship. The thing I want to add to that is the Namely Core Principles, which recently came out. If you recall, Namely is the National Association of Media Literacy Education. And those core principles in the last year just got redesigned. For me, it went from something of like, I had to kind of be in the media literacy space to really have an understanding of it. And now with these core principles, it's like, oh, I can just look at the core principle number 4, and I'm going to read it down here. Encouraging learners to practice active inquiry, reflection, and critical thinking about messages they experience. Boom. If I keep going, messages they experience, create, and share across the ever-evolving media landscape. So it's really like critical thinking, critical reflection around messages they create and consume, right? Like in a nutshell, that fourth core principle is kind of what media literacy is. It's it's definitely in the same ballpark as when we talk about digital citizenship, but I think particularly in an election year when there's going to be a lot of talk about sources, the political leanings of sources, as AI just continues to evolve at an exponential pace, um, looking at not just fake news that's written, which is what a lot of the conversations were, particularly at the high school level, but as we look at AI created images and now AI created video, being able to take a person's voice with just a couple paragraphs of text and add that to a script, basically creating like your own narrator voice, you're going to be able to take any candidate essentially and have them narrate whatever text you want. So the ability to critically look at all media, to look at the sources, to look at the messages, and to really have a critical eye towards it, um, at scaffolding it really at all grades is going to be a timely and important lesson. So if you've not looked at the core principles of media literacy education, take a look at that. I'll link to that in our announcement as well. And then the last thing I'm going to leave you with, as you just finished up your collaborative assignments from last week, I was talking with my good friend Anna Cosma, who is the education director of something something at Microsoft Flip. She was kind of the first education person that at the time Flipgrid brought on. Amazing human. She just keynoted Spring Q. We were talking about ways to get community asynchronously. And a hack she shared with me that's not super well known in Flip, but I wanted to share with you because it feels really in line with our last assignment where we were doing collaborative stuff like in Padlet, in Google Maps. You just did the assignment, right? Is to actually use Flip, and then in the description, you can link to other flips. And so what she was thinking about is like the one page about whatever topic you want, about like being a member of Q. And then with each one of those, as you have the description of it, it's like click here for leadership, click here for STEM, click here for AI and education, click here for I'm attending Spring Q in person, click here for I'm new to Q and have questions, click here for elementary class. And you can basically, in the description, link to like 20 other grids, which is pretty cool. So we're talking about what that might look like as just an ed tech professional and using Flip to leverage that. So I wanted to share that with you. It didn't quite fit our assignment, and also was something we were talking about just this past week, but wanted to share that with you as kind of an ever-evolving way you can leverage tools like that. So that is all I've got for you. Happy week 6. If you have any questions, please reach out.